Hello, welcome to the FIGITAL Revolution 2.0 here on YouTube. And today I've got an exciting guest visitor, Eve, my beautiful wife and amazing co-author of the FIGITAL Revolution Manifesto, which we wrote back in 2005 and 2006. Today, she's going to read Chapter 2, and then we're going to briefly say, where does Chapter 2 fit in all these years later, now here in 2021? So, Eve?
Story time. Chapter 2. Why is film on life support? Once upon a time, and not so very long ago, digital was synonymous with the dark side for the photographic community. Remember? Luke, buy the upgrade, Luke. Boy, we've come a long way since then. Today, of course, only a few short years later, we've done a flip-flop. Digital is the rule, and silver is the exception. Now, has technology evolved so quickly that film has been utterly eclipsed by the complete and total superiority of digital in every way, shape, and form? Absolutely not. What has happened is a strategic move on the part of the photographic industry. Once camera-producing companies made the realization that digital could be endlessly upgraded year after year, they did the math and said, hey, digital really is better. Well, better for business, sure. After all, previously, camera companies were a one-hit acquisition. A camera, a lens, and then bye-bye. Remember how the original Volkswagen Beetle was such a good car, it basically put itself out of business? The car ran too well, as in no repeat customers. Similarly, if a camera manufacturer made a really good system, the client might never come back. Horrors, a satisfied customer. Well, that sad situation has certainly been rectified, hasn't it? Like the old joke about the weather, with the current digital climate, if you don't need new technology now, well, then just wait a minute. Greed with a capital G has caused companies to hurtle forward into new frontiers of digital. More resolution, easier to use, still more resolution, features you'll never need, still, yet, now, even more resolution. With staggering sums of money footing the bill for all the marketing needed to convince you that no, you cannot possibly get along without this either. Never mind that we're rapidly approaching differences in printer resolution so subtle as to be virtually undetectable. Never mind that software is released with known bugs. Shh, don't say anything. Just because we need something to sell at the next photo convention. Never mind that digital papers are all starting to look disturbingly similar. So, is digital better than film? No. Digital is different than film. And when we say different, we don't mean, oh, isn't that different? One says in reaction to the mauve hand-knit sweater you got from Aunt Petunia. We mean good different. That is to say, especially when we're talking about the options available to an artist in the creation of his or her work. Choice is simply and without question an inherently positive thing. But tell that to the industry, because they're sure as shit not hearing it. As we are all aware, film is on life support. It makes sense, perhaps, from a dollars and cents point of view, and from a digital as radioactive reptile taking over the world point of view, but let's look at it another way. When working with a traditional crotchety old camera, how many film options do you have? At one time, the answer to that question was over 100. And even today, with film sales in free fall, that answer is still dozens. Sharp films, grainy films, films with every conceivable tonal range and color sensitivity. On the other hand, when you buy your nifty new digital camera, how many film options do you have? One. Yep, as in sensor chosen for you by the manufacturer, which, by the way, is not changeable. Unless, of course, you, all together now, upgrade! Is this really what we want? Who is working for who around here anyway? You may just be surprised to find out.
Wow. I think it's interesting reading this chapter today, given the fact that film sales are exploding around the world. Eastman Kodak recently announced that they're having a film price increase of close to 20%, and that sent a lot of shockwaves through a lot of people. But the primary reason for that increase is that they can't keep up with demand. They need to increase capacity. They need to train new people to run the equipment. You know, when we wrote this book, film was in free fall, and it was really scary. Now the problem is that there's a supply and demand issue. And materials cost more money. But I'm happy to see that after all of these years, that film, I feel now, is stable, at least for the foreseeable future. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be expecting great film stocks from Kodak, Ilford, hopefully Ferrania. FOMA seems to be solid. ADOX, please bring back your 120 film. Fuji, they're a mixed bag. I'm never quite sure where they're really going to sit. But I do feel better now in 2021 than I did when we wrote the book. I do feel that the industry now is reaping a little bit of what it sowed. Point and shoot camera sales are basically...
And what year was this?
2005, 2006.
Okay, so after that,
Yep.
did films continue to go on the
Downward
endangered
slide?
list?
Yes, up until about 2012. And then you started seeing
then there was a
bounce back.
turnaround.
Same thing happened with Polaroid. When Polaroid decided that they were going to stop making Polaroid material, they stockpiled what they thought was going to be enough material in order to last them an extended period of time. But all of a sudden, Polaroid caught on, and they tried to say, hey, we're going to make new Polaroid film. The problem is the third-party manufacturers who were supplying Polaroid, the machines, the equipment, the engineers, were gone. And that's why it took so long to sort of re-engineer the Polaroid process. And anybody who shot the new Impossible stuff knows it's not like original Polaroid. It's nothing like SX70. It's different, and it's fine. It's got its own place, but it's different. I'm happy to see that Kodak was able to get out the other side of their bankruptcy, and they're still making really great film. Cine Still and people like that are on the market now, bringing unique products to bear. But I do think that the industry, the camera industry, really got just destroyed by the iPhone, which, by the way, I predicted. I said the iPhone will be the phone that everybody's using. No one's going to be using a point and shoot. I got so much crap for that at the FIGITAL Revolution way back when I wrote that article. But it's just a fact. You're going to always use the camera that you have with you, and you always have your phone. The point and shoot market really is dead. But the film point and shoot market is coming back. Yashica T4s are going for a high price again. The biggest problem that I see right now is that there's a limited supply of used film cameras. For instance, one of my favorite cameras that I use is a 1935 Voigtlander Enos folder. It's a 6x9, absolutely an amazing camera. I can still shoot 120 film in this camera, and I do every day, and it's brilliant. But there's a limited supply of these used vintage cameras. There's a limited supply of used Leica cameras, used Nikon cameras, and a lot of them need service and maintenance. So that's now the next scare that I see, is at what point does the film industry really have to convince the camera industry to start building new film cameras?
So you don't think we can subsist on what already exists?
Unless there's going to be an increase in repair parts and stuff like that, there will come a point where it's going to become difficult. I mean, I own like several of these cameras, and I own it for a reason. It's like almost 80 years old, and stuff happens to an 80-year-old camera. So, I'm aware of that. I own several Leica M3s because I know I need to keep them on a maintenance cycle. I'd like to see the camera industry step up and bring back some basic good 35mm 120 cameras again. That would be, I think it's a place that they could actually make money. The whole megapixel race that went on forever, everybody's trying to put more megapixels in their cameras. That's been stupid for the last...
Is that not still going on?
No, it's still going on, and it's stupid. It's stupid, stupid, stupid. No one needs more megapixels. What you need is more bit depth. That's what you need. No one needs smaller dots than your printer is currently printing. What we need is Epson and the other companies to stop being lazy and invent a new printing pattern and invent a new set of color inks. CMYK is a holdover from the printing industry. So there's all these things that haven't gotten better because there hasn't been a push from the industry, but I think we right now might be at that push. There's a compelling reason for someone like Epson to create maybe a better scanner than the V850. You don't need much better, just a simpler workflow. We'll get into that later. There's a compelling reason for Leica and for Canon and Nikon and maybe some third-party person to bring back some 35mm and 120 film cameras to augment what's already there.
So we don't just need more films to come back.
No,
we need more cameras, traditional cameras,
exactly.
remade.
At least in a small quantity to augment what's already there. And you need to have technicians who know how to fix these type of cameras. That's one of the big problems that Kodak and a lot of these film companies are having, is that they haven't trained the next generation of film engineers to run this equipment and to make the film, and now they're scrambling to do that. I think the same thing is true with this. When I have to have this camera serviced, there's only like 2 or 3 people that I can think of that I would trust to service it. You know, when I had my
I'm surprised there's that many.
I know, and one's in the Netherlands and one's here, and I mean, they're sort of all over the place. Same thing is true with like Rolly cameras. You know, my TLR guy, Krigor, you know, he's deceased. There are very few people that are servicing these type of cameras, and they have the depth of knowledge to know how to maintain them. So we need that balance. We need some new filmer cameras to come on the market. We need to be training people how to maintain the old ones and creating parts to be able to fix the old ones. And that will then perfectly marry with the increased demand for film, which is, I think, just fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you very much for listening. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now go shoot some film.